Hello and welcome back to the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association podcast. This week we have Larry Glanz, a private wealth advisor for Ameriprise Financial Services. We hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the MSU WMA podcast. My name is Lefty Theodoru, and today we're here with Larry Glanz of Glanz Wealth Advisors at Ameriprise.
Hello.
How you doing there?
Betty, thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you for joining us. So getting into my first question here, can you give us just a background about yourself, and your career journey and your current role where you are today?
Well, I actually excelled at math in high school and took bookkeeping in high school. And for me, accounting was my best direction. So in college at the University of Windsor, I had a dual degree completed in accounting and economics. And I was recruiting on campus by one of the larger CPA firms in Canada known as Clarkson Gordon, affiliated with Arthur Young, which is now Ernst & Young. So that was very important. Why I'm bringing it up. It's very important that your first job is something that's prominent, a big firm, a known firm, if you can. Being there 7 years in public accounting, it taught me that I didn't really want to do public accounting as much as I wanted to do more personalized investing and investments, but I wasn't ready yet. So after 7 years in public accounting, I spent 13 years as a corporate controller. That way I could focus on one company, helping them. And I actually had 3 companies over those 13 years, each one bigger than the next, each salary bigger than the previous, to the point of when I was at my 20th year, I decided, okay, I'm ready to go out on my own. And I interviewed with all the firms, and I was hired by Equitable, which then became AXA, which is Equitable again. And that's a financial services firm, and I was with there 20 years. And then after 20 years, I left and started my own Glanz Wealth Advisor practice with Ameriprise Financial as my broker-dealer, where I've been 11 years. So that's my journey. It's been focused. It's always been 1 year better than the next. But there's some really important points to make as I go through these questions as to how I was able to succeed, because it's not easy. And it meant a lot of hard work, but it also meant being coachable, because these firms are willing to teach you. You've got to be willing to listen.
Yeah, I love that. And that's a pretty big takeaway I hear a lot too, is being able to be coachable, having those listening skills to take advice from the people you look up to, or you want to be in their position in the future, So that transitions me into my next question. You own and operate a private advising firm under the Ameriprise umbrella. What is that experience compared to people who work just at a big company? They don't have their own practice like you do.
So I think you're talking about what's the difference between advisors like me and, let's just say, somebody who's hired by Comerica Bank or a credit union to work in their department. And so they never really own the book. And so this is a yin and a yang to me. On one hand, if that's the best you can get it. Go work for the bank, go work for the credit union, go work for a big company, knowing that you're not going to own those clients so you can get the experience. But on the other hand, if you spend 10, 20 years there, you're not going to be able to bring those clients with you because you probably have signed some kind of a non-compete agreement. So try to join firms where you do really own your own clients, and you're going to be able to develop that. And if you need to change. So I was 20 years with Equitable, is what I mentioned. And for the most part, those relationships I own, and I brought almost all of them over when I came to Ameriprise. Understand it's not automatic. People see this as a change to maybe do something else. But for the most part, people are working with you. They're not there because of Comerica or Ameriprise or Merrill Lynch. They're there because of John, Sally, Tommy. You understand?
Yeah.
So it's a personal relationship. And I know we've already had robo advisors and we're going to have AI advisors, but there's a segment of the population that doesn't want to do that. There's lots of people that can do it themselves, and I say go do it yourself. I'm talking about as a client. But the people like us who own our own practice, they want somebody that they can have a personal relationship with, someone that can really understand their situation and not just be a robo calculator or an AI generator of information. So what I'm wrapping up this question is that because I know that I kind of quote own those clients, I really try to develop a nice relationship with them, be cooperative, do things that they want, listen to them, follow up with them regularly, and show them that I care and show that I'm listening to them. And it's not just listening to them about their investments. You know, did your daughter have a baby, and what's that like being a grandparent, and how was your trip to Vegas? And they would say, how do you know that? And that's because I make notations and I pay attention to what they have to say.
Yeah. So what you're saying is during that transition point, basically the trust you had with your clients was so great that they didn't care about where you worked at because they wanted to stick with you, right? They're like, you're starting your
That's
own
right.
firm. Go ahead.
It's a personal relationship. So you've got to do two things. You've got to get share of wallet. What's share of wallet mean? Don't be satisfied just to sell them an investment. Try to get all their investments. Try to understand all their life, their group, their disability. Try to understand their group benefits. You can't get any compensation from that, but help them with open enrollment. Okay, I just had someone say, I got to get another car. So instead of me saying, okay, let me know how much you need, I said, go to the dealer and get a proposal on buying the car over 5 years, even though you're probably going to pay cash, or leasing it. Let me look it over so you can better understand what's the right decision. Do I make money on that? No. I'm increasing my share of the wallet. And also I want to mention that just about any company you work for has aggregation software. So even if they have a 401k at Ford Motor Company, that 401k can be linked to their financial plan with me, and I can actually see the underlying holdings and give them information and advice about that. That's what I mean by share a wallet. Really come to understand everything they have, even if it's with another advisor. Just try to understand it. Don't try to necessarily take it away. And when you do that, deep down inside, they're going to be evaluating and saying, my advisor, Larry, he really understands my situation, whereas the other person never asked me about my estate, never asked me if I have properly titled my bank account or my house. And I like that. And that's somebody I want to work with.
That's good. Yeah, and that's a great trait to have as an advisor, is going over the top, and making sure you understand everything about your client as a whole, because it surprises them a lot of the time. Like, wow, nobody really is, especially in an advisor sense, nobody's treated me like this before. They've never done this much for me. I should stick with them,
Right.
So, yeah. So I want to talk about the beginning stages of Gland Wealth Advisors. And when you were transitioning into it, what were some challenges or difficulties you had?
So this is the thing. Why did I go with Equitable 30 years ago? Keep in mind, I'm an accountant by training. I'm a CPA. And CPAs aren't known to be marketers, right? And fortunately, I was gifted with some type of a personality that I could use. And when you're in the financial services business, you're not handed clients. Well, maybe some firms are handed clients, like at a bank, right? They have customers. So they're going to say, you should talk to Mr. Smith. He's coming in. And they teller sends Mr. Smith over to you. But that's cool. Okay. What I'm talking about is building relationships with CPAs, attorneys, other centers of influence, your current clients, and trying to let them know that you are trying to expand your practice and you would like referrals. So the hardest part for me at the very beginning was, how do you conduct The phone call, when you call somebody up to say, I got referred to you by your cousin, my name's Larry, and I'd like to meet with you. And then they're going to ask, well, what investments do you offer? And then you start telling about investments, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You have to learn how to, that's what I want to talk to you about. And with that in mind, can we meet? You kind of like get off of that. So for the firm I joined, they had a methodology of the opening meeting called the profile, the second meeting called the discovery, and the third meeting called the strategy. And I liked that. So I knew that at the first meeting with a prospect, you're not selling them. You're finding out about them, what's their goals, what's their aspirations, what they're trying to do, what's frustrated them in the past. And that's how I was able to win that meeting and go to the next. It's like, okay, let's meet again. I'll give you a checklist of the things I want you to bring at the second meeting. And if they say yes, you're moving forward slowly but surely, no commitment for them to share information with you. What I'm trying to say is, though, the beginning stages, it was hard, but I was learning, but I was able to prove to myself that a complete stranger referred to me by somebody I knew, his golf buddy, gave me at the time $50,000 to invest. Like, whoa, they didn't know me, he gave me $50,000, 30 years ago, right? So I'm saying that was the hard part. But I will tell you that what I learned real quick was, don't try to be really good on the computer. Don't try to learn all the programs. Spend time developing a marketing plan and calling people. I try to call 5 to 8 new names a week to set 3 to 5 appointments. Remember, there's going to be cancellations. So I constantly was creating new activities. That's the hard part. The hard part is developing relationships. And obviously, you want to make money if you're on complete commission or fees, but that's the hard part, developing.
Yeah. And that's very important, to have that personality, like you say, and to not be a robot. Is you can know everything, but if you cannot connect with people, they will not want to work with you. You know, you may have all the information, but if you don't relate to them on a human level, they will not want to work with you.
That's right. You'll come to learn objections. And like, I had somebody say, I'm not ready to meet with you yet. I go like, okay, you're probably thinking that means you're going to give me money. I don't need to meet with you to give me money. I just want to meet with you and learn about what you're trying to do. So with that in mind, would it be okay if we met? And guess what that person did? They said, okay. And we met. You know, you've got to kind of like understand that there's going to be objections. So how do you learn that? You've got to go to a firm that's going to train you. They just put you in a seat and hand you a phone book. Most of you don't know what that is, right? But they hand you a phone book. You're never going to succeed. You don't want to be cold calling. You want to learn how to develop relationships. And you do have relationships. You have your parents, friends, your cousins, people at church. I don't know. You just have people that know you. And so all you're trying to do is introduce yourself. And I'm here and there's like this huge Chamber of Commerce meeting. I don't do that anymore, but it's nothing to join a Chamber of Commerce and go and introduce yourself. But it means developing the relationship, which means follow them. And for people of your age, because you're in college, the single hardest thing for you is you want to text and you've got to call. You've got to get people on the phone. You've got to bring the human element, because texting and emailing doesn't work. You'll be in, as I call it, email jail. So we've got to really develop those skills by networking at events, you know, like Chambers of Commerce. And I'm sure you have events at your school that you can network as well.
Yeah, we definitely have tons of events with our wealth management club and meetings and stuff like that, where we meet not just each other, but professionals in the industry and get different viewpoints from them. So that's great. So my next question here, I want to talk about the older and the newer generations. So you've had a longer career than me and my colleagues. And I wanted to ask, did you notice any differences in the way we approach financial planning versus how you did, or people you know, or maybe the mindset that they bring into it?
So you're not talking about how to cultivate relationships. You're talking about the actual, you have a client and
Yes.
you're developing a financial plan. I
Yes.
don't really think there's a difference. Okay, so I have software programs that I use, and I have an associate. He's 41, so he's not college age, but he's a lot younger than me. Okay, and I think his approach is just the same as I am. I've mentored him, and it gets down to he's dealing. The thing is, though, I'm dealing with people 50 to 90. He's dealing with people 30 to 50, kind of, right? And think about people 30 to 50. They don't have a lot of money. They got a mortgage. They got a lot of expenditures. So their needs and the financial plan that goes along with it is different than the needs of my clients. My clients, 50 to 90, are putting money away, reducing taxes, making sure you have adequate life insurance and disability coverage, making sure you're maximizing open enrollment for your employer, and understanding what's going to be happening in the near future, because at 50, you're nearing retirement, whether it's 60 or 65. Now we go back to my associate dealing with people 30 to 50. They're willing to do Roth. They don't really want to do a lot of the 401k because that's not till 59 and a half, but they're willing to invest non-qualified. That means, funds, but having up in a IRA, so it's accessible. And so that's just part of the financial planning, is pointing it towards what they most likely will want to do, because they might want to buy a bigger house and need more money and cash that out. But at the same time, they don't think about it, but we do in the financial plan, making sure they have adequate life and disability insurance. And we first try to maximize their group benefits because it's really cheap. Secondly, we try to find the lowest cost term insurance for them, and then we go from there. So I think you got to understand, your generation, you're probably not going to be doing business with people 50 to 90. They just don't view you as experienced, but you're going to be doing business with your associates and their siblings and their friends. And so you'll customize that to where they are in life.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I also wanted to ask, on top of that, for young advisors like me and my colleagues coming in, what can we just do to really separate ourselves from the rest? We're trying to get our name out there. We know we're young. How can we look at it as an advantage and not just a disadvantage?
Okay, so how you separate yourself from your other associates that you're so to speak competing against, Betty?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's the thing. You've got to do a lot of self-education, self-help books. I did a lot of that. I read a lot of sales books and how to speak to people. And one thing I don't like is I don't like yes or no questions. I don't like to ask yes or no questions. I like to ask open-ended questions because I just want an answer and I don't want to know. When you get to know you, it's a dead end. Okay?
Yeah.
So that might mean, what's more important to you? Accumulating wealth that you can access, in the next 20 years, but pay tax as you earn? Or is it more important to invest so that you won't incur any taxes, but that money is postponable as to its use in later years? What's more important to you? So you get a dialogue going.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, you've got to think about questions that you're asking, and you've got to listen to the answers. You don't want to try to tell people what to do. You want to try to find out. Remember that people, first of all, people love their name, so you always got to keep using their name. Second of all, you want to hear their story. You want to ask them, what's your aspirations? How did you get started? Like business owners, especially, they love telling their story. It's their movie. And so if you're a good listener and you're taking notes, and don't be afraid to take notes. Don't just sit there and stare, because nobody can remember everything. And I'm not afraid to write things down, but I notice young people when I interview them or I mentor them, they're not writing anything down. I go, how can you remember everything? So I got to tell them, write it down. So be intrigued by the person, find out what their goals are, and try to do what they want you to do without going into something that they probably would turn sour. It's, you know what I tell people is that it's the relationship that's gold, not the money that they have. The relationships are gold. And I have people, fortunately, that have been my clients for 30 years. Okay, 30 years in the financial services business. Okay, and it's like, that's golden. I'm earning money on recurring services. They aren't going anywhere. They're happy with what I'm doing. I'm doing everything I can for them. And I don't have to spend time marketing for people like them. Do I lose clients once in a while? Sure. Am I always looking for new clients? Absolutely. I love getting new clients. But at the same time, I'm trying to say that a relationship is golden. And in the early years, I didn't care how little money they had. I wanted to make them a client and take care of them. And that sharpened my knife, or however the saying goes, right? My blade. I just got sharper and sharper as an advisor because I cultivated relationships without regard to how much money I would make. So I could earn from them referrals to other people. And that's how I built my business.
Yeah, I love that quote. It's the relationships that's the gold, not the money, and that you can keep them for a very long time. So I have a couple more questions here, and this next one is a bit more personal to you, and it's about success. So some people define success as maximizing the amount of money in their pocket. Some people define it as, hey, I make good money at work and I can still make my kids sporting events, or I can travel with the family and things like that. I want to know specifically, what is your definition of success and what does it look like for you? And also, has it changed from when you first started working to now?
Well, it's absolutely changed. So when I started 30 years ago, but and not all of you are going into financial services. I don't think this, well, it is wealth. Your club is wealth accumulation. So it is about being in that business, right? Not necessarily being in accounting and all that. And one of the things I had going for me was I did have a CPA credential. I never got the CFP. And as a CPA, I could just sit for the exam. You'd say, why don't you just sit for the exam? Pass it. Because I just would have to study and I don't have time. But I want you to know in 30 years, rarely was I asked, am I a CFP? Now, maybe they didn't ask it, but I'm trying to tell you that you've got to have credentials. So it's helpful if you have CFP if you're not going to get your CPA. But it's also helpful to have an MBA. You got to have something other than your bachelor's. I have other degrees that are industry degrees like APMA, which is Accredited Portfolio Manager Analyst, which allows me to trade with discretion, and CRPC, which is Chartered Retirement Planning Counselor. And for the most part, that's enough for me, right? So going to the beginning, you need credentials. And you can have credentials somehow, some way quickly. So that when you're meeting people, they view you as an educated person. Now, I know someone who's been in the business just as long with me. They're a lawyer, but they're doing financial services and they only have their JD. They never upgraded their education. They never added on. So I was adding on to make my credentials the 3 that they are today. So what I'm trying to tell you, though, is you need credentials. That's wrong. How is a CPA or a lawyer going to refer to you if they don't see you as a professional, if you only have your bachelor's? Okay, so you need your master's and you need some other kind of advanced degree of some kind. And then you've just got to be a student. You've got to listen to the training. You've got to talk to the wholesalers. So the fidelity, there's wholesalers from all these investment companies. They all want to talk to you because they want you to place the money of your clients with their mutual funds or ETFs or what have you, but they have ideas. Use them, find out from them. And that's what I've done. So I've cultivated so many pearls of wisdom. Even my wife, she overhears me saying, like, how do you know all that? I go, yeah, I know it because I pay attention, I'm coachable, I listen, and when I hear something that I like, I use it and I apply it. And I will tell you that I know a lot of advisors that are just, 9 to 5 and they're out of there. And I've always worked extra hours, including Saturdays, to build my practice. And so that was the beginning. And so now I'm really at the top of my game, and I've been the top of my game the last 5 years. And I really can stand up to wealthy people who are really sharp. I can stand up to CPAs. I can stand up to 7 doctors. I went to a firm, 7 doctors, and I told them that they were doing their qualified plan wrong, and this is what they should do. I mean, that's something when you can go there and be in front of those brains, architects, engineers, and tell them how you can make things better. But you got to win them over. You've got to see what they have. So that's the other thing. I don't tell people what to do till I see what they have. Because if they say to me at a party, well, what do you do? What kind of investment do you do? I go, well, I do all kinds of things, but it depends on the situation. Let's just wait till we meet this week. I'll call you Monday, and let's meet and we can chat, and let's just go and enjoy the party. That's what I do. I leave them wanting more. I don't try to sell on the phone. I don't try to sell on emails. I try to talk to them. And if I can see what they're doing, I can find where they're overlooking things, not doing things, and win them over that way.
That's awesome. And I think we're going to wrap it up with that. That is a great story. Thank you for sharing. And
You're welcome.
thank you. I want to mention, guys, we'll have Larry's contact info posted. He is always open to answering questions and giving advice to the younger generations to help them succeed. So with that being said, that will conclude our episode for today. Thank you again, Larry, for being a part of this, and we really appreciate you being here.
Thanks, everybody. Take care. Good luck.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSU WMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSU WMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.